So what we're looking at here is a video with green screen, and that green screen has had a little bit of work done to it in terms of there's been some masks applied and so on. So what we're looking at is we're looking at a chroma key effect, and it's continued in the prop that the person is using, in that we have a green piece of paper which allows us to get the outline of the person's hand. But then we have these big obvious trackers being used, which aren't going to be keyed when we do our keying. So if I just switch these masks on again, just to keep the, oops, subtract, just to keep a clean workspace. Now, so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to use tracked masks as a way of quickly getting rid of our trackers here. So this is what would fall under the category of cleanup, and this is where we've done some visual effects, and now we need to tidy up or clean up all of the things that we used in the shot. So we've gotten rid of the green screen, now we're going to get rid of the trackers. Now I have some masks here, but I've named them BG1, 2, and 3, so we can clearly see that they belong to the background. We have some props here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some masks. Actually use the pen tool, and I'm going to draw big enough that it's going to give a couple of pixels outside of my object. I'll change the color of that so we can see it. And I'm going to create another one down here. This one's slightly fussier in that we don't want it to get too close to his arm. So I'm going to draw here. Again, just so you can see it a bit more clearly, give it a bright or a dark green color. Now, so on frame 1, I've drawn my two masks. Now currently they're set by default to add, but when I set the two of them to subtract, you'll see that they just have the effect of cancelling or deleting the pixels that are in there. Now, just to make this easy for myself, I'm going to set it to none, and I'm going to be able to go up to my tracker now, which has changed by default. So if I deselect those masks, you'll see that the tracker is set to its usual track camera and so on. But when I select masks, you'll see that it changes. It changes to a mask tracker. And this is very handy for using masks both as trackers and the objects that are then used as a result of the track. It's very straightforward. So first of all, you need to say, okay, well, what are we following? What kind of changes are going to be made to the object we're tracking? In this case, it's set to position, scale, and rotation, and that's actually fine because it's very two-dimensional. I mean, he doesn't turn in space. He's very much side-on for the entire thing. Now, if the camera did move around him, then we might find that those become changed in terms of their perspective. We might need to go and change that down here. I'm going to leave it on position, scale, and rotation. It lists the masks that are included in this effect. Now I just need to either go automate forward tracking, automate backwards, or go one frame at a time. So automating forward tracking, and keep the image or the composition fully visible so that you can see if it starts to slip. What happens sometimes is that the mask drifts in and it starts to cut in, or it drifts out and it cuts into other parts of the shot. But it's usually pretty effective. So you can see the masks are following the objects. Now all the masks get turned off while there's tracking going on, so don't worry about, we can see all this stuff around the edges. That'll all get switched back to subtract once the tracking stops. Okay, now, so you'll see that the two masks set to none. If I select the two of them, set them to subtract, they've now disappeared. Okay, so I've done cleanup, and we don't need to be looking at our tracking objects anymore. So that's mask tracking, simple but effective way of both tracking and then cutting elements out of our shot.